For decades, Hollywood's golden age glimmered like polished gold. Red carpets shimmered, movie screens beamed with perfection, and the stars seemed almost otherworldly, untouchable beings sculpted from light and charisma. But behind that immaculate glow was another reality, one less fragrant, more human, and often downright unpleasant. This is the story of 12 Golden Age celebrities whose personal habits clashed with their glamorous image, a secret history that studio publicists fought to bury. Yet beneath the rumors and gossip lies something deeper, a portrait of fame, pressure, and the imperfect humanity behind the legends. That if this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Number 1. Clark Gable, the king with a secret. Clark Gable was the embodiment of masculine charm. A leading man so magnetic that Gone with the Wind immortalized him as the king of old Hollywood swagger. But co-stars knew a truth audiences didn't. Vivien Leigh, who kissed him on screen as Scarlett O'Hara, reportedly dreaded their romantic scenes. The reason wasn't nerves, it was his breath. Gable's smile concealed a full set of dentures. Chronic gum disease had cost him most of his teeth early in life. The dentures, combined with chain smoking and heavy drinking, gave his breath an odor that makeup artists described as impossible to mask. Leigh would supposedly complain after takes that kissing him was like kissing an ashtray. Behind the scenes, Gable wasn't indifferent, he was embarrassed. Colleagues noted he chewed mints between takes and brushed obsessively. Yet in a time when dental reconstruction was primitive, his charm had to shine through sheer charisma, not minty freshness. And somehow it did, proof that charisma can eclipse imperfection. Number 2, Joan Crawford, the queen of clean. If Gable's problem was odor, Joan Crawford's was the opposite, an obsession with cleanliness that bordered on mania. Crawford's bathrooms, according to her maid, sparkled like hospital wards. She reportedly scrubbed her hands dozens of times a day, bathed constantly, and even sterilized her pillowcases before sleep. She ironed her money, disinfected door handles, and insisted that anyone entering her dressing room be spotless. Studio legend claims that Crawford carried a portable bottle of alcohol and wiped down every surface before touching it. This wasn't just vanity, it was anxiety, the psychological weight of maintaining perfection in an industry that punished women for any flaw. Crawford's immaculate appearance on screen was her armor against a cruel reality. In Hollywood, a woman's beauty could define and destroy her. Number 3, Marlon Brando, method and mayhem. By the 1950s, Marlon Brando redefined acting with emotional realism, but he also redefined Hollywood's idea of professionalism. Brando's co-stars often joked that he could embody tortured genius so perfectly because he lived it. On the set of A Streetcar Named Desire, Vivien Leigh again found herself opposite another difficult partner. Brando's method approach and disregard for conventional grooming often left him sweaty, disheveled, and according to Leigh, ripe. Crew members said he wore the same t-shirt day after day to keep the raw authenticity of his character intact. Even during Mutiny on the Bounty, where he played an aristocratic officer, reports suggest Brando's hygiene slipped so badly that crew members kept their distance between takes. But those who knew him best say his lack of care was deliberate, rebellion against Hollywood's polished image. Brando didn't want to smell like a star. One biographer wrote, he wanted to smell like truth. Number 4, Errol Flynn, the scoundrel's scent. Errol Flynn's swashbuckling charisma made him the ultimate adventure hero, Captain Blood, Robin Hood, the Sea Hawk. But off-screen, Flynn's reputation for charm came with something darker and muskier. Crew members on his films joked that Flynn smelled like trouble. Olivia de Havilland, his frequent co-star, adored his magnetism, but confessed privately that his personal hygiene was wildly inconsistent. Between bouts of heavy drinking, sea voyages, and indulgent nights, Flynn often arrived on set unshaven and unwashed. Yet that very wildness fed his legend. He was chaos wrapped in silk, irresistible and reckless. to his fans, that danger was intoxicating. To his colleagues, it could be overwhelming. Flynn once said, "I like my life as it is, a little too much salt, and sometimes a little too much smell." Number 5, Marilyn Monroe, a perfume and a mystery. Few stars in history have been more associated with sensuality than Marilyn Monroe. She famously told reporters she wore nothing to bed except 5 drops of Chanel No. 5. But behind the myth was a complex relationship with cleanliness. Her makeup artist Alan Whitey Snyder revealed that Monroe often avoided bathing for long stretches, preferring to mask odor with layers of perfume. Crew members claimed she could arrive on set hours late, hair disheveled, yet somehow still radiate allure. Marilyn lived chaotically, a woman caught between intoxicating glamour and crushing insecurity. Her unwashed sheets, her scattered bottles of Chanel, her insomnia, they paint not a dirty woman, but a tormented one. Even in decay, she shimmered like perfume lingering after the flame goes out. Number 6, Charlie Chaplin, the comic with a serious odor. Charlie Chaplin, the genius who turned poverty into laughter, was meticulous about his art, but less so about his person. Colleagues described his smell as a mix of sweat, cigar smoke, and grease paint. He worked obsessively, often spending days in the same costume, adjusting every gesture for perfection. During silent film shoots, Chaplin would skip bathing or changing clothes to avoid breaking continuity. To him, the work mattered more than appearance. Still, the result was noticeable, especially under hot studio lights. But Chaplin's body odor became part of his myth. It wasn't neglect, it was focus. The smell of genius, some said, was simply the smell of obsession. Number 7, Mae West, the scent of seduction. Mae West was the queen of double entendre, bold, witty, and unapologetically sexual. She draped herself in diamonds, fur, and clouds of perfume thick enough to fill a theater. Her fragrance of choice was gardenia, but she didn't just wear it. She lived in it. Friends joked that West's dressing room smelled like a perfume factory, and that her co-stars left scenes carrying traces of her scent for days. She was a master of sensory branding before marketing experts even coined the term. But too much of a good thing could be overwhelming. During My Little Chickadee, W.C. Fields complained that sharing scenes with her was like acting inside a florist shop. West only smiled and said, "Honey, when you smell me, you remember me." And indeed, no one ever forgot. Number 8, Orson Welles, the genius who neglected himself. Orson Welles was barely 25 when he made Citizen Kane, a film that changed cinema forever. His genius was undeniable, but so were his indulgences. By the time he was in his 30s, Welles' diet, drinking, and sleepless work habits had taken a toll. Crew members described him as magnificent and monstrous, capable of brilliance one moment and complete collapse the next. During the Magnificent Ambersons, actors said the smell of cigars, whiskey, and perspiration clung to him like a second wardrobe. Yet, even when unkempt, Welles carried an aura of authority. He smelled like ideas. One cameraman quipped, "Half genius, half hangover." Number 9, John Barrymore, the prince in decline. John Barrymore was Hollywood royalty, the actor's actor, a man of elegance and Shakespearean command. But as age and alcoholism consumed him, so, too, did neglect. In his final years, Barrymore's friends described him as a ghost of his former self. Jean Fowler in Goodnight, Sweet Prince, recalled that Barrymore's once elegant appearance gave way to disarray. Stained shirts, whiskey breath, trembling hands. His home smelled of spilled liquor and faded grandeur. Still, when the cameras rolled, he could summon that voice, that power, that old magic, as if for a few minutes he became Barrymore again. The tragedy wasn't that he smelled bad. It was that he burned so brightly he consumed himself. Number 10, Bette Davis, the scent of defiance. Bette Davis didn't care to be liked. She cared to be respected. Co-stars who complained about her chain-smoking or her old-fashioned perfume quickly learned that Davis did things her way. On the set of All About Eve, Ann Baxter said Davis's dressing room was filled with smoke, so thick you could write your name in it. Yet Davis refused to apologize. "I don't perfume myself for others," she once quipped. "I perfume the air for me." Her defiance wasn't arrogance, it was survival. Davis came of age in a system that punished outspoken women. The smoke, the strong scents, the dramatic presence, they were her armor. Number 11, W.C. Fields, the aroma of excess. Comedian W.C. Fields was synonymous with alcohol. His nasal drawl, red face, and sharp wit became caricatures of the drunk uncle archetype. But his hygiene was no joke. Friends recalled that Fields smelled like a distillery, a potent mix of gin and sweat. Yet, even his odor became a kind of signature. He didn't mask it, because he didn't care to. To Fields, pretense was the real sin. During the filming of My Little Chickadee, he reportedly joked, "If Mae West doesn't choke on my fumes, I'll choke on hers." The audience never smelled a thing. They only saw chemistry that somehow worked. Number 12, Errol Flynn's Shadow, The Forgotten Cost of Glamour. The final tale doesn't belong to a single person, but to a pattern that repeated across Hollywood. Glamour demanded perfection, while the conditions, hot lights, long shoots, recycled costumes, made it nearly impossible. Studios often reused clothing, sprayed actors with cheap perfume to mask odors, and rationed water on set during wartime. What we call poor hygiene was often just the smell of human exhaustion under layers of illusion. Beneath the powder and lights, stars sweated, smoked, and suffered, just like anyone else. Conclusion: humanity beneath the glamour. It's easy to laugh at these old stories: the king with bad breath, the goddess who didn't bathe, the genius who smelled of whiskey. But look closer, and they become something more profound. Each scent, each imperfection, tells the same truth. That stardom doesn't erase humanity. These were people trapped in the machinery of myth, forced to appear flawless while their bodies and minds cracked under pressure. Clark Gable brushed through shame. Joan Crawford scrubbed away fear. Marilyn masked loneliness in perfume. Brando sweated for authenticity. Wells drank to keep the muse awake. Their odors were not signs of failure, but of being alive. When we watch their films now, the kiss in Gone with the Wind, the shimmer of Monroe's smile, the smirk of Flynn, we see more than glamour. We see people who carried the weight of their flaws beneath studio lights that never went out. And perhaps that's the real legacy of the Golden Age, not the perfection it promised, but the humanity it could never quite hide. So next time you think of Hollywood's early legends, remember this: the stars who smelled of sweat and perfume and whiskey also smelled of work, passion, and survival. In the end, their imperfections are what made them unforgettable.